And welcome, everyone, to the Between Two Wheels podcast. This is Tyler Yonke, your host, coming to you from Northern California. Today, we're going to talk some more cycling. Snelling road race results, the Merced Crit. First of all, in the Snelling, we had SoCal versus NorCal. Who takes home the title? We'll give you an update on that. Young Americans in the World Tour. This is going to be something I'm going to work on later, but we'll just kind of go over that. Some sprinting and climbing in the desert. Some things that make you go, some winners and losers. And are we experiencing the next or the early stages of the next Eddie Merckx or the next Frank Van den Broek? Coming up, episode 162 of the Between Two Wheels podcast. All right, everybody. I appreciate you joining us today. It's your coronavirus update. I think I've got the solution for dealing with the coronavirus. I think all you have to do is subscribe to this show on YouTube, and that inoculates you from it going forward. Look, that whole situation is getting crazy, and we'll talk about it when we talk about some of the desert stuff, but it could be the end of World Tour racing for this year. Maybe it's too speculative as to what this actual virus pandemic and endemic, what it's going to be, the results are, or what the actual ramifications are of that. But for right now, they're canceling races out there in the desert in the UAE, United Emirates, and there are also some issues with Italy. It's coming down pretty bad. So how is this going to how are we going to see this going forward? I don't know, and we'll talk about that. What I do know is there's a young man coming up, Remco Evenepoel. We're going to talk. I just want to break down his early season, his early two seasons, his early everything for the World Tour, because it's been pretty phenomenal. Look, it's actually quite amazing what he's achieved in his short stint. I mean, 2 years ago in Norway, he won the Junior World Championships. We saw that win was pretty impressive. Comes from behind. There's a break up the road. He had gone down in a wreck. He ends up catching back up and then going through everyone solo. It's pretty amazing. And look, you don't really know what someone's going to do, because people, and especially men, boys in this case, or women actually, they develop differently at different stages. You've seen this with Quinn Simmons. It's kind of a man boy himself as a junior. LeBron James, I mean, he was a full-on man when he was in high school. Michael Phelps. So, you got different aspects of different people like this. So you don't know if his record in the junior ranks is going to correspond to the World Tour, and it usually takes some time to get up there. Look, I think it was something like out of 60 junior races, he had won 50 some. I mean, it was just an onslaught. And he's a little guy. I mean, he's 5'7", 135 or 134 pounds, somewhere in that range. So you don't know what he's going to do. But when you race against men, and we're talking grown-ass men, you don't know what that's going to be. I mean, these have more experience. They have better fitness. They have better drugs. Did I say that? Well, we don't expect domination is what the point is. But yet, here we go, and he's got some pretty amazing results. So I thought we'd just take a look kind of at where he's gone over the last, since he's been in the World Tour. And we'll start kind of with his 2019. He comes in there, he does the Vuelta al San Juan, which we've talked about, this year. He's done well in that, and we'll get to that as well. His general classification for that race last year, though, was 9th, and you're like, number one on youth classification. But he has a smattering of, okay stages, and he pulls out the individual time trial, pulls out a third there last year, and everyone kind of like raised their eyebrows like, whoa, that's mighty impressive. Not so good on the climbing stages. Has a few other races, mid-series, gets a fourth at the cycling tour of Turkey, presidential cycling tour of Turkey. Mediocre in Tour of Romandy, and you don't know what he's doing. Look, they're trying to help him and gauge him along. Hammer Series, he gets a win in stage 2. Now, I don't know if that was the team or what that was. And the Hammer Series is a little different there. Tour of Norway, same, mediocre. Gets 5th on the mountains classification. Comes into Hammer Limburg and gets 2 wins there, stage 1 and 2, and the general. Now, that's all team stuff, so we'll understand that. But then the Belois Belgian Tour is kind of where he shocks everybody and says, hey, I'm here. He gets mediocre on stage 1, but stage 2, he wins that. He gets a 4th place on the individual time trial. He then gets 3rd on stage 4 and is able to hold on to the general classification. So not only does he get his first major win, he also then gets the major GC win of this race as well. And there was some pretty good, I want to say, there were some decent riders that are quite decent riders. It's not a shabby race. He goes into then the Belgian National Championships in the time trial, gets 3rd, 84th in the road race. Okay. The Adriatica Ionica race in, I think it was at Norway or Italy. Italy. He gets this win on stage 3 there. Does fairly 8th, top 10 on GC. Then we hit Classica San Sebastian, his first big monument, and he comes away with the win. Pretty impressive. Then he goes into this is when he starts to just show his fitness and kind of like get over this hump or whatever's happening there. He goes into the European Continental Championships. He wins the time trial, the individual time trial. Once again, 134 pounds, 5'7". It's a little guy. Then goes to the Deutschland Tour, does okay there, does those 2 races up in Canada, then gets 2nd to Rohan Dennis in the individual time trial at the World Championships, doesn't finish the road race, but all impressive. Then we have this year, which is pretty short already. And I'm just, because what he's done, once again, this is some guys' careers. This is, some of these guys out there, if they ever had these kind of results, they would shut it down and say, hey, I've done it for the year. I've done it for my career. I'm perfectly fine. It goes into San Juan this year, and he ends up winning that overall. He gets a 3rd place on the time trial. Once again, he crushes everybody. We talked about that. He over Brandon McNulty. What's the guy for DeQuina? I'm sorry, not DeQuina. It's the other rider that Ghana, I want to say, that had done really well in the pursuit. So anyway, very, very good time there. They did the Merck style little thing of something to come there maybe. And then he goes, and actually what was most impressive was the mountain stage, stage 5. He gets 5th place on that, but that was one where he had got kind of, due to the winds, and I don't know what exactly happened. They got gapped out. Brandon McNulty's up the road, and every minute and a half, and Remco comes to the front with his team, but mostly him, gets back up to the group. Not only gets back up to the group, then on the climb, which is a little more of a big green type of climb though, he ends up putting the pedal down, getting some people pushed out the back, and ends up with 5th on the day for the and gets the overall GC down there in San Juan. Very impressive. But then the one that's just kind of like taken me by, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here, is the Volta ao Algarve, which was no slouch of a race. He ends up winning stage 2. He ends up winning stage 5, which was the closing individual time trial. He was 3rd also on stage 4. The stage 2 result, that had some pretty punchy people. It was over Max Schachmann, Dan Martin, Rui Costa, former world champ, Tim Wellens, Lopez, Superman, Federico, Vincenzo Nibali, Bauke Mollema. I mean, it goes on and on. These are, Kwiatkowski was in the race, Van Avermaet, Swift, nothing to shake a stick at. And then you go in the time trial, and he's putting it down in the time trial. This guy, I'm very impressed by him. And what's most exciting to me, because you've also got, we've talked about Matthew Van der Poel or Van Aert, those 2 other riders that are very impressive and exciting as well. But the difference that I see out of Evenepoel, Remco, is he's a guy I think might be able to be threatening on the Grand Tour scale. So that, look, he's built for it. He's short, he's small. And I'm not seeing him contest in sprints, so he's punchy, but he can time trial. So you get a guy that can climb pretty good and then can put it down on the time trial. I mean, what more do you want? Look, we talked a bit about, I opened it up saying, hey, maybe the next Eddie Merckx, maybe the next Frank Vandenbroek. Well, Eddie Merckx, most people know him, 200 and some career wins. He'd win from start of the season to the end of the season, but it was a little different time back then too. Bikes were a little different. Eddie was phenomenal, but not everyone from top to bottom is fit and is serious about this sport as I think they are now. So it's that the field is deeper and everyone goes full season, or they specialize actually a little bit more. So you have guys, like Lance would just focus on the tour, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So that was Eddie Merckx. As I doubt he's going to be the next Eddie Merckx, but he's probably going to be called those kind of things because he's Belgian. Frank Vandenbroek was kind of the next Eddie Merckx, and he was supposed to be this next great thing and got caught up in drugs. I think he died of a pulmonary issue. but kind of a tragic figure. And so we obviously hope that Remco doesn't go down that route. But other people have been. Roy Nickman, he was going to be the next Greg LeMond, and I just think it overshadows your actual potential when you start to make these calls. That's why, is that why I'm doing it? I don't know. It's kind of fun to see, because when you see him, you see Pogacar and some of these other young riders coming in, and they're just killing it. You have to expect everything goes up from there, right? It's not going to be a descending blow. It's going to be a trajectory going up and up and up. So that's kind of where we're looking at down there. So very impressive for Remco. I wish him the best, and I'm excited to kind of see where this is going to keep going. And once again, I just want to kind of get another infusion of some of these riders in Grand Tours and make things a little bit more exciting. Hey, look, am I an expert? Maybe. I mean, I'm just for it today. You've got to look the part. If you're authoritative, you wear a tie, maybe that makes you a little bit more of an authority on any subject you want. It's part of just playing the game, right? All right, how about some young Americans in the World Tour? Well, I'm doing a breakdown, and so I'll just give you a kind of an overview of what some of these riders are doing. And if you have any ones that I'm missing, then we'll talk about that too. But we have Ian Garrison, he's 21. He just got a top 3 in the La Provence stage race there. You have Sepp Kuss, he's 25. He rides with Jumbo-Visma. Ian Garrison with Dakota Quickstep. Top 10 at the La Provence, and did a great climb on that Ventoux. And that, to me, is, once again, you saw him winning last year at the Vuelta, so he's already starting off the season well. Brandon McNulty, though, kind of the rider we expected. I mean, he gets a contract with UAE, so he's obviously a rider that you expect a lot out of. But he comes out San Juan, he does well. Andalusia, he contests well. And he's getting in the highlights, and he's causing problems, and I'm really enjoying to see it. He's 21 years old. Last year was the Raleigh. Quinn Simmons, another kind of Remco-like, and the classics are coming up. That's his thing. We've got those coming up this next week, starting, hopefully, Corona riders, if it doesn't take him out. But Quinn Simmons, that's kind of his thing. He's 18, or he was last year. I think his race age maybe is 19 now. But, I mean, it's unbelievable that because he's already got a top 10 in La Provence in the sprint stage there, so he's at least able to get some competition and some competing in. We have Nelson Paulus. He's 23. He's now with Education First, EF Education First, and he did pretty well down. Now I say pretty well. I think he had the potential to possibly win down in Australia on 2 different occasions, but he didn't quite get it. But hey, whatever. We're looking for. He's 23. Sepp Kuss is 25. 2 years on him. So that's what we have. All right, let's go to kind of a recap. And look, I tried doing this podcast yesterday, but as you can maybe hear and see, I'm under the ailments of. I put out on my ride yesterday. I said, "Is there such a thing as COVID-18?" Because I'm not quite 19, but damn, I don't know why I'm getting sick here again, but that's why I missed the big race down in Southern California last week, the Snelling Road Race. And so we'll go over the results of what happened down there. There was some good riding and some of the predictions that we had made. Some of the predictions, and we'll just go over to the results as we have here. Talk about the women. I had hoped that there would be more women showing up in the Cat 1-2s, but as it was, there were 6 finishers, 3 non-placements. Kathleen Giles, I believe that's Scott Giles, Masters racer, former national champion. I want to say 2014 in Utah. Anyway, his wife did his wife win this last year? I think she did fairly well out of nationals in Colorado Springs. Anyway, she gets the win, and Allison Tetrick, we might all know of her, gets second place. Sophia Andrews in third for Point S, presented by Nokia Tires. How about another? How did the women do as far as their threes? And okay, so their threes, they got 13 finishers. Several 6, 7, 8 additional non-placements. I don't know what happened there, but Leslie McAllister wins over Claudia Fiera and Jennifer Steele. The Cat 3s, the Cat 4s. I'm mostly doing this just to see. And 15 placements there. Lynn Hunter, Sue Lynn Holt, Candy Masterman. And the 5s. So decent little showing. I'm always looking for more. Kathleen Houlihan of Eclipse Racing over Laura Smith and Maya Wolf, 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's do the men's 35, 1, 2, 3. I think this was the morning race. I believe there was a breakaway there. I predicted Mark Tucker. I'm not sure who Peter Corlon is. He's at the Olympic Club, but that team is, I mentioned them. They're tough. They've got Wiffelmacher and how come I'm losing? I'll come up with the other rider here. Chris Coble. Jeez, how did I forget? And then obviously Peter Corlon. But Mark Tucker, they were in a break, I think, with Zach Morvant. And that's the 1, 2, and 3 there. Mark Tucker of Velo Kings got his Cat 1 upgrade. Congrats. Going to be a beast. Maybe you should start doing some P1-2 races with that Cat 1. See what you got there. Olympic Club, like I said, first, second, Mark Tucker. Third place, Zach Morvant, Nathan Parks of Touchstone, and Joe Chacon in fifth place. And then Jeff Scott, our teammate, data-driven athlete. Jeff, you see a finish line photo. He has a nice little gap. He's trying to win the field sprint, and he pulls out of the pedal. Got to fix that, Jeff. Can't have that. Still, pretty strong finish either way. How about the 45s, 1, 2, 3? This was in the afternoon. I had mentioned on the prediction show that Pete's was really, they lined up everyone for this. It was probably the one that they were going to, everyone was going to be gunning for. And if they didn't get the win, they might be disappointed. Well, they pull it out with Kyle Glarum. I got a video of that sprint. He just kind of decimates everybody. Very strong. And it was over, national champion Jonathan Baker, Touchstone, and Rick Lawton of R4R, Michael Foley, Rick Morgan, Chris Fisher, Jason Boynton on down. Very impressive for Pete's. Good job for them getting off the Schneid and getting their big win out there at Snelling. Big bunch of riders. We had 40. I mean, it looks like a lot of DNPs, but there was, and I think while Kyle, this is his only race of the day. I think Jonathan Baker was doubling up, so he had already done the 35s. Probably did a lot of work there. Then he's out in the Masters 45s, and he ends up getting second. You can just see the sprint. He's tightening his shoes, and it's just a little bit more, maybe a little bit extra in his legs that Kyle didn't have to deal with. But, hey, kudos to Kyle. Now the big one. The big one of the day was the P1-2 race. SoCal brings in Legion of LA. And then on the Northern California side, we have Folsom Bike. Lux Sideshow was there with just Luke Lamperti, who's from Santa Rosa or Sebastopol. And then you've got Ride Bikes Bro. We had talked about that. Hey, Ride Bikes Bro, we got your chance to do your lead outs with those two teams. It didn't really shake out the way Ride Bikes would maybe wanted it, but they got some of their revenge the next day in the crit. But Tyler Williams, who I actually had predicted of Legion, that was going to be, I thought, the rider. I think there was possibly a little bit of a break here, but Tyler Williams wins over Luke Lamperti, Sam Bassetti. Fourth place, Brandon Wirtz, teams Mike's Bikes then smatters in the top 10 here with Brandon, Jeff Linder, Chris Coble, sixth place after I think he had done the 35s in the morning. Very impressive. Chris Reichert coming in seventh. John Borstelman, the first rider for Volair. Then Legion gets their ninth place with Corey Williams. Cooper Shanks in their 10th for Mike's Bikes. So Mike's Bikes. Look, so who wins the NorCal versus SoCal? Well, obviously Legion of LA, Los Angeles, gets the win. But let's take a look here. Tyler Williams, Santa Rosa. He is one of our local boys. We see him in our races all the time. I think NorCal, we get to take a little bit of a victory for this. I would say so. All right. Anybody else? Tyler Williams, congratulations. Looked pretty beastly out there with the win, at least the post at the finish. So congrats to him and all those other ones that raced out there at Snelling. Snelling's a big race, and I wish I could have made it this year. And then the next day we have the Merced crit at Merced. Some of those riders were then able to, let's take a look at the women. Were able to get their revenge from the day before. Not too many women showed up. 5 of them. Thaler Mize ends up winning for Monster Racing over Katie Masterson of Cavaris, and then Madeline Fraschetti of She Spoke Racing. The 45s, 1, 2, 3. Sean Smith of R4R wins over Jerome Nadal. Johnny Lance, David Allen, Cameron Walker of Folsom Bike in 5th place. 35, 1, 2, 3s. I saw this video of Sean Begley. It's pretty good. And you can see, hey, what? Who's this up front? Well, Chris Reichert. Chris Reichert decides to meddle with the old men. Now, he's still only, I guess he's 35, so he has that right to do so. Team's Mike's Bikes, but he's he's a force in the in the local P1 too. So all of us Masters riders who are having trouble between work, coronavirus, and whatnot, way to go. Sean Bagley ends up getting second place there for Evoque Racing, and Dave Grunman, Pete's Coffee in third, Travis Lee of Folsom Bike in fourth, and Mark Tucker, fellow Kings, in fifth place. So Mark Tucker, he's a problem too. So this was, I think it came down pretty much to a sprint, but with Reichert kind of jumping early and catching everybody, and then he's just able to hold a power number that I think is more difficult for a lot of people to get onto. Okay, and the P12 race, this is where you ended up having Ride Bikes Bros. They end up taking their revenge, 15 finishers, so not a lot, but there's either people didn't finish or they didn't place or they didn't start. Miles Hubbard, for Ride Bikes Bros wins over Chris Reichert. So that's a pretty, I think they were in a break, and John Borstelman in third for Volair. Nick Baird of Ride Bikes Bros in fourth, and Josh Wood of Folsom Bike in fifth place. So, look, once again, Merced Crit. We also had the Cherry Pie Crit, and Jeff Linder had just had a video coming out about that. He won. He was in a break with the Volair riders. He and Chris Reichert kind of break that down. What I saw from there, and I think did we talk about Cherry Pie before? Yeah, we talked a little bit about it last week. But from what I saw with the video is Jeff Linder, once again, putting the things right as far as doing he's in a break. He's got, I think there was a Tarun rider. Linder's now with Mike's Bikes. It's a Tarun rider, and then there's two Volair riders, and he wasn't sure about one of them, but one of the guys wrecks with like a lap or two to go, so I think kind of takes him out of the... But they're flicking Jeff, and Jeff's just not doing a lot of pulling, and I guess for them, they were willing to drag along in a sprinter. Good for Jeff. I mean, his team's got, I guess, resources from behind. And then the not inevitable, the unthinkable happens, whereas the team with the two guys in it, one of them big ones just blows out it was that 180 corner, and then you're down to one. And it was interesting there that the other guy, as soon as his teammate went down, he comes through and just does a big lead. So maybe he was it to their advantage? Maybe they both should have sat up. Who knows? But what we have coming up in the NCNCA calendar, Madera Stage Race, that's right now. But I saw emails about small field there. I know they don't do day of, so that's the 28th, the Friday through the 1st. They're doing a different thing. I know the pros do like a time trial opening day, like a prologue, and then they have crit and everything else, but road race. But they were doing something different with the thing. So if you're doing that race, you're listening, you should probably already know it. But I think check your emails at the NCNCA calendar page or their Facebook page. Sky Express Livermore on the 8th of March. Then we got Land Park Crit, Wards Ferry. Those are the same day. You can do what's called a bang bang. That's the term goes with go to one restaurant, eat a dinner, go to another restaurant immediately after, eat another dinner. That's your bang bang. You can do this too with Land Park and Wards Ferry. I think you do the road race in the morning, the crit in the afternoon. I've known it to be done. Bariani on the 15th, Mike's Bikes, Cats Hill on the 21st with Santa Cruz Classic on the 22nd. Two great races. Pesquenta Road Race on the 28th with Chico, Steve Harrison, Memorial Crit on the 29th. And are you going, anybody else going out there to do that? I don't know. I would like to go do the Pesquenta Road Race and maybe the crit. Am I going to miss the time trial? This might be the best ever because I don't have to do the time trial. How about some things that make you go, All right, well, Chris Froome, he's back in racing and he's at the tour, the UAE tour. Look, he's expected to suffer, to be on the back of the climbs for getting bottles, and he appears to be happy doing both of those because he's been doing both of those. But oddly so I'm glad to see him back and doing the whole thing. But what's been interesting, though, is Ineos and their actual results this year. You look at all the teams, there's two teams that are at the bottom as far as, I'm just talking wins, right? The very bottom is CCC, unless they've won today. I don't know if there's a race around there. They still have not won a race this season. And then you have Ineos. They have one win, and that was on Duel from last week at the La Provence, where he won in the last stage there. And that wasn't a super impressive win. You've got Kwiatkowski, you've got G, you've got Geraint Thomas. Bernal has been their best actual probably results guy, except for Owen Duel, down in Colombia, and he just ran into a buzzsaw of Martinez and Higuita and EF, oddly, a buzzsaw of EF. But other than that, it's Ineos has not been looking all that great. And then Chris Froome now, he's out there to tour the UAE. And then there was reported it's supposed to be a final stage or two after the climbing that they had out there. And they said, nope, we're canceling it. They first reported that 2 teams came down with the coronavirus. They were tested positive, so they were quarantining everybody. Some of the journalists are tweeting out about their quarantine. They're testing everybody. Now they said, those 2 riders or those 2 different teams that they were just sick. And so I guess they're not positive. But they're testing everybody out there because, there's it's a kind of a hub, international hub. I mean, right here in Folsom, California, they just had a guy that was on one of these cruises from Japan, and I think 700 some people were found positive from there. He's from Utah. He was in at I think UC Davis, and then they just moved him to Folsom. So we've got the coronavirus coming in here real close, but it's out there in the UAE tour. So look, this is the episode, and it's just real interesting to see that Ineos is just suffering a little bit, and maybe we can have a shortened season, like I said earlier, because of the virus and the scare of everything and tours and races getting canceled. And if that's the case, maybe they just end up with 1 win. There's also another story I saw this week about it said a SUV driver in Lincoln, California, drags a cyclist for like a quarter mile or something like that. So you go, okay, you look at it, and it was on Cycling Weekly. And they kept saying that a SUV driver, I don't care what kind of car he's driving. You look at it, and it's like a Cadillac SUV. It's kind of a car anyway. But I'm like, and then they said where it was. It was Lincoln, California. And I'm like, oh, that's a Del Webb out there. That's an old man's community, old person's community. Well, as it came about, they linked to another story, which actually had details, which was this was an 85-year-old driver, hit a rider, didn't have his windshield was shattered, kept driving. And he's like, I didn't know that I'd hit anybody. That's a little sketchy. And it's probably true. I mean, if you encounter, people can lose their faculties at whatever age, but it does happen at the older age. And especially out there, this guy probably should not have been driving, ends up hitting a cyclist. The guy had broken buttons. It was on the roof until someone else kind of pulls it over. This is like a movie, kind of forces him off the road. And at some point, it's like, hey, there's a cyclist on your roof. Maybe the idea, I don't know why they were saying it was a SUV driver, but that's exactly what it was. Let's talk about the races out in the UAE. So you got this, I just mentioned a little bit ago, but that's kind of the big race that's happening right now. That's not happening. Big news on it. It's kind of what I would call the Sprinters World Championships. You've got Caleb Ewing, you have Ackerman, Groenewegen, Gaviria. It's been great. But then they have 2 climbs that they do they do it 2 different days. And so it's a little mix of both of those. First day you had Ackerman winning the sprint. The next day it's this little climb up to Hatta Dam, and you had Caleb Ewing doing a ridiculous. Him and Sam Bennett just kicked everyone. It's really pitchy at the top, and it's not enough of a climb that the climbers win it. It's basically sprinters that can stay there, and Caleb Ewing won it last year. He won it this year. He gets in the leader jersey. But then they have the next stage going up to this big climb. It's like a 6K climb. It's just wide open. And Adam Yates kicks off near the bottom, and no one comes with him. Lutsenko tries. Pogacar is down there. And in the end, Adam Yates gets like a minute and a half or minute 5 or something like that over everybody. They have another flat stage, which gets Groenewegen gets a sprint win. And then they go up and do the climb again. And this time Pogacar kind of is attacking. You got Adam Yates, though, being able to stay together. So it was a really good climb for those 2. And then Lutsenko's there. Actually, Lutsenko comes around the last corner, and he looks like he's got the win, and Pogacar nips him at the line. So, look, the winner of this race, though, is COVID-19 because it knocked everyone out. Actually, Adam Yates ended up getting the win due to the virus because they're canceling the stage altogether. And let's see what we have coming up for the World Tour races. we have Omloop Newsblatt this weekend. It's on Saturday. And with that race, it's kind of your opening salvo for the classics. And it should be an interesting one. Let's take a look and see what they have, little details here. I'm not seeing who's all. Well, there's Stybar, Pedersen, Philippe Gilbert, Greg Van Avermaet, Oliver Nason, Sepp Van Mark, Boris de Vries, Dylan Toons. Look, a lot of good racers here, and it should be good. As long as I know Matthew van der Poel is basically pulled out because he's been sick, so that's not going to happen for him. Kern Brussels Kern then is on Sunday. So we've got that. And then, look, Milan San Remo is somewhat in doubt due to the fact that they have the coronavirus killing everybody, killing everything. So how about some winners and losers? Those that are not too sick to race this weekend are your winners or train. All those other ones might be your losers, which would be your Matthew van der Poel in this case. I think that this is pretty wild. I mean, if it's going to if it's going to take everybody out, the coronavirus, it is. I even heard, this is what's kind of crazy, is I heard that, excuse me, I heard that the sales for the Corona beer is actually down due to the fact that you're having, because it's named coronavirus, and then they renamed it COVID-18 or 19 to try. I don't know if it's that or they didn't want it associated with something else, but change the name. But people aren't buying Corona beer for fear that they're going to get the virus. Should these people be allowed to exist? I mean, yes, they should. I'm not for euthanasia and that, but it does make you wonder if there's a possible solution that could be had with that. How about our mailbag? Look, I'm not going to read any more mail because I think you guys can chime in with anything you want here. And basically, I'm just not going to. I don't have the email bag up, and we didn't get that much feedback from the last few races. We did get some from the like I mentioned, the one with the kid was arrested. That got a lot of good stuff. Then we had some. Oh, I did want to mention the streaming show, the live show that we did. We did a streaming show for Snelling, which actually got good amount of views, and I think we're going to try to continue to do that. So I would suggest, if you guys want to subscribe to our pages, subscribe to, especially to the YouTube page. That one you'll be able to see when you get notifications. There's a little bell up there. You click it, get a notification when things go. We'll try to announce maybe on our Facebook or there when we're going to do the next stream. And I'd like to do it before one of the next big races, maybe Land Park, Bariani, one of those, and we'll get maybe you guys interaction, chime in with us. Look, this has been an episode 162 of Between Two Wheels podcast. I thank everyone for joining in. Prayers out there for those that are sick, and especially for me. I could use it. As always, subscribe to our show. We've got it on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbeam, everywhere else. Between Two Wheels podcast on our YouTube channel. You can search us B2_podcast on our Instagram, Twitter, everywhere else. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Thank you for joining the show. And of course, until next time, drink your Corona and subscribe to the show. Thank you.